She told the federal government she was worth $30 million. $30 million. A congresswoman from Minneapolis, the scene of some of the worst corruption in our nation's history. A woman who came to this country as a refugee. A woman who built her entire political career on the claim that she's fighting for the little guy against the corrupt, wealthy elite. $30 million. And then the moment investigators started asking questions, the money vanished. Every penny gone. Now she's claiming that she's worth less than $100,000. She blames it, I kid you not, on an accounting error. Investigators aren't buying it. As we're about to find out, it's not just the money. It's where the money came from and why it disappeared the moment the spotlight turned on. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, enjoying yet another glorious, exciting day in Trump's golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. This is Clayton Fuller. If that name and face is new to you, that's because he is Marjorie Taylor Greene's replacement. He's a JAG attorney and former prosecutor who just won the seat vacated by Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia's 14th district. And unlike MTG, he immediately hit the ground running and started taking on the systematic abuse of power by people who don't think the rules apply to them. Enter the utterly repulsive Ilhan Omar. In her 2024 financial disclosure, Ilhan Omar reported household assets of between an astonishing $6 million and $30 million. It's a staggering number for a congresswoman on a government salary. And the Office of Congressional Conduct thought the same thing. They sent a letter asking for clarification. Please account for how you made all these millions of dollars in a matter of a single year. So Omar filed an amended disclosure. And in that amended disclosure, I kid you not, that $6 to $30 million in assets vanished. And instead, she claimed only $18,000 to $95,000 in revenue. So in a blink of an eye, she went from reporting up to $30 million in assets to now, in this revised disclosure, reporting a maximum of $95,000. Now, that's obviously not a rounding error. That's not a typo. That's a $30 million discrepancy that appeared and disappeared based entirely on whether or not someone was paying attention. Her spokesperson's explanation, again, I kid you not, their official explanation is, quote, an accounting error. An accounting error made by her husband's business professionals. Her husband's a fellow by the name of Tim Minette, a Democrat political consultant who ran her campaigns and whom she married while he was still reportedly married to another woman, by the way. He had his business professionals file a disclosure that accidentally added $30 million to the family's net worth. That's the story they're going with. So now you may ask, where did the inflated numbers come from? What accounted for those millions of dollars? Well, as it turns out, they both go back to two businesses. The first is a winery called Estcru. It's spelled ESTCRU. It's a Sonoma County winery that Minette co-founded with his business partner, Will Haler. And in her 2023 disclosure, Omar valued it at between $15,000 to $50,000. That was at $15,000 to $50,000. That's back in 2023. In 2024, in her disclosure, it had jumped to be between $1 million and $5 million. But there are serious problems with that. There's apparently no tasting room. There's no functioning website. And the most damning discrepancy of them all, there's actually no wine for sale. How can you account for a surge in wine sales when you ain't selling any wine? Turns out a California investor who gave money to this phantom winery subsequently sued Minette and Haler, alleging fraud. The lawsuit describes what is essentially a wine company that exists on paper and nowhere else. This ghost winery was supposedly worth $1 million. The second business is even more brazen. It's called Rose Lake Capital. It's a venture capital firm that Minette runs. Does he have any experience in running a venture capital firm, you may ask? And it turns out, no, he doesn't. In court documents from 2022, Rose Lake Capital had only $42 in its bank account. Again, you heard that right. $42.44 to be exact. By the time Omar filed her 2024 disclosure, miracle miracles, Rose Lake Capital was suddenly valued at between $5 million and $25 million. A venture capital firm run out of a WeWork virtual mailbox with no employees, no SEC filings, and $42 in the bank is suddenly valued at $25 million. And then when investigators started asking questions, both valuations collapsed back to near zero. Note, it wasn't one valuation supposed screw up, it was two, both in the millions. So obviously a lot of people are asking the very same question. What on earth is going on here? No one buys the accounting error nonsense. So where did all those millions come from and where did they go? And that is where Marjorie Taylor Greene's replacement comes in. This is where the story takes a turn that I think changes everything. But first, gang, I want you to stop what you're doing right now and go to turleytraining.com because we're living through a time when a lot of people are beginning to realize something very important. The old economic system, the one that told you to work harder, grind longer, and depend on institutions that frankly don't have your best interests in mind, is starting to finally break down. You see it everywhere: inflation, instability, and a growing sense that the system is increasingly designed for the benefit of a very small group at the top. And whenever we see moments like this historically, something interesting happens. Ordinary people begin looking for ways to create independence from the system rather than depend on it. And that's why I want to invite you to a free training with someone I know personally, a good friend of mine named Ryan. Ryan's been quietly building what he calls the perfect lifestyle business, and it takes advantage of the new hidden economy. And what's fascinating about it is it's probably not what you think of when you hear of online business. In fact, when he first explained it to me, I'll be honest, it sounded a little odd. But then he showed me the results, and I immediately got excited because it's working so well right now in 2026, and it makes total sense. The part that really caught my attention, it takes him less than 30 minutes a day to actually run and operate. I kid you not, 30 minutes. And the best part is it's so different from a lot of other online businesses out there because there's no advertising to run. There's no social media marketing to worry about, no employees to hire, no inventory to buy, and no websites to build. You don't need any technical background to get started, and this hidden economy lifestyle business is something you can learn and apply in just a few hours a week. So I asked Ryan to break this down for you step by step so you can be as blown away by it as I was, and so he agreed to host a free private training where you could see exactly how this works, because this is about creating real independence in a time when more people are starting to question the system altogether. So if you want to see how this hidden economy works and decide if this is right strategy for you, go to turleytraining.com, all one word, turleytraining.com, and reserve your spot right now. You already know the world is changing and more people are stepping outside the system, not by chance, but by choice. So this is one of those opportunities to do exactly that. Learn more at turleytraining.com.
Normal Americans made these types of mistakes on paperwork to the federal government, they'd be facing an investigation and they'd be worried about going to prison. And that's why I talk about, in general, we should be holding members of Congress accountable. The other thing that's so problematic about that, you look at those numbers, those are just rounding errors on the $1 billion worth of fraud that she oversaw just in representing her district with the Somali fraud there. So maybe all of that money that suddenly disappeared in her net worth just went to one of those Leering centers there in Minneapolis.
That's Congressman Clayton Fuller, who just won the special election in Georgia's 14th Congressional District, replacing MTG. And he's entering Congress loaded for bear. He's a JAG prosecutor, and he laid it out simply. When you file a federal financial disclosure under oath, and those numbers are materially false, that's not an accounting error. That's a federal crime. And the question investigators are now asking is not whether the numbers were wrong. They obviously were, but why they were wrong, and why were they so wrong? And whether they were wrong in a way that tells a story about money flowing in and out of businesses that don't appear to actually exist. Many are starting to openly ask if these were illicit shell companies, empty business entities with no real operations, employees, or assets used to disguise the true ownership of money, evade taxes, launder funds, or commit fraud. The House Oversight Committee under Chairman James Comer has already sent a letter to Minette and is actively exploring subpoenas. Federal investigators are reportedly looking at the same businesses separately. And then there's the question that J.D. Vance put directly on the table when he said this.
We actually think that Ilhan Omar definitely committed immigration fraud against the United States of America. And I talked to Stephen Miller about this actually recently. We're trying to look at what the remedies are. That's the thing that we're trying to figure out is what are the legal remedies now that we know that she's committed immigration fraud? How do you go after her? How do you investigate her? How do you actually do the thing? How do you build the case necessary to get some justice for the American people? There's a related issue, Benny, which is she has been at the center of a lot of the worst fraudsters in the Somalian community. So do I know that Ilhan Omar was aware that the Quality Leering Center was defrauding the American people? I'm not certain of it. But we at least need to investigate it, because if people can commit wrongdoing without even the fear that they're going to be found out, that's a fundamental problem. So I'm worried about the immigration fraud. I'm also worried about what did Ilhan Omar know about what was happening in the Somali community, and why was nobody looking into it until, frankly, Donald Trump came along.
And things are so serious that Newsweek actually ran an entire piece asking the straight-up question, can Ilhan Omar be deported? And their answer was yes. The legal analysis they published said if the immigration fraud allegation is proven, if she did marry her brother to obtain citizenship for him, as has been alleged for years, that would constitute a deportable offense, even for a sitting member of Congress, if her own citizenship was obtained fraudulently. So when the Vice President of the United States goes on national television, says definitely, not allegedly, not reportedly, not there, well, there are questions about, no, when he says she definitely committed immigration fraud, that's not a casual political attack. That's someone who's seen the file. So let's put this all together. You've got a sitting congresswoman who reported $30 million in assets tied to a ghost winery with no wine and a venture capital firm with $42 in the bank. When investigators started asking questions, $30 million in reported net worth suddenly evaporated overnight. The House Oversight Committee is investigating. Federal investigators are separately probing. A brand new congressman with a prosecutor's background just publicly said there is a serious legal case to be made here. And then you have the Vice President of the United States saying on national television that she definitely committed immigration fraud. I mean, things are pretty bad for Ilhan Omar. Somebody who spent her entire career claiming that the system is rigged by the wealthy and powerful against ordinary people. Turns out the real question is whether she's the one rigging it herself. So what do you guys think? Is the noose finally tightening around Ilhan Omar, or will the establishment find a way to protect one of their own? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless.